Welcome to the Charlotte CBMC podcast, a series of candid conversations with area business and professional men. In this series, you'll hear how CBMC has connected businessmen to God, His Word, and each other, equipped them to grow and become godly leaders at work, in their community, and at home. Now, let's join our host for this episode of the Charlotte CBMC podcast.
Well, hello again, Charlotte CBMCers, and welcome to another episode of the CBMC Charlotte podcast. I'm your host, Brian Brady, executive business coach, and I'm continuing my interview with Paul PJ Haringslake. How you doing tonight, PJ?
Good, Brian. How about you?
Doing well. You know, last time we talked about your faith background and your family, kind of what you kind of went through as a young high schooler and college student, and kind of what the interplay of God in your life looked like while you were young. Today, I'd like to talk to you about your professional life and your family. Most specifically, you know, you've graduated college, you've graduated college, and now you're working in the workforce, and you're about to get married. So walk us through that. And what your role of faith, or where you were in faith during that particular period of time in your life.
Yeah. So when I met my wife, my first wife, Emily, who's the mother of Jordan and Bailey. So I was in New Orleans living at the time, had been down there about 3 or 4 years. We met, fell in love pretty quickly, got engaged pretty quickly, moved from New Orleans to Chicago. I'd just gotten promoted. And while I was dating my wife, so my wife comes from a pretty traditional Southern Baptist background. She's got like a couple of her uncles are pastors, her mom's super spiritual, the whole family, right? Every cousins, you know, super extent on both sides, her mom and her dad's family. So very religious from a Southern Baptist background. Maybe even overly religious at times, but still good foundation. Like I said, a couple uncles who were pastors. Her mom was very involved in her churches and stuff like that. And again, at that time in my life, you know, is to go to church with her mom, and we go see her mom and stuff like that, or her dad, or whoever we were visiting. And again, I didn't reject that. I didn't not like it. You know, I would enjoy, and her mom would talk to us about spirituality, and I enjoyed those conversations. And
you weren't born again at this point.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Just
still.
sure,
So
okay.
I'm talking now. So now we're like in 1995 when I met my wife in the 96. So then it was kind of divine intervention, right? So I met my wife and her mom, who was really influential with me, and I was always, you know, on top of the world, right? All my career, I was like the sales rep of the year. I was the region sales rep of the year. I was the national sales rep of the year. I was,
how many hours were you putting in, would you say, per week to be that?
Probably 60.
No, not bad. I thought you were maybe killing yourself, but you're a natural guy that can gain rapport with people, PJ. Yeah. So I would need a lot more time per week to do that. So,
well, if you include travel, probably more like 80, right?
All right. So you're putting in a good amount of time per week, right?
Oh yeah. I was traveling a lot, and whether it be car or flying, and you know, you've traveled some, and it's like travel's never easy, right? So something always gets delayed. I remember I had one territory when we moved back to Chicago, when me and my wife moved back to Chicago. I covered Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And in the wintertime, I never got home when I was supposed to. It was always snowing in Minnesota, Chicago, or Milwaukee. So I either couldn't leave the airport I was leaving from, or I couldn't get to the airport I was going to. So that was always a delay. But
so you're working a lot of hours. You're newly married, and
right.
you have a mother-in-law, actually in-laws, who are fairly spiritual. Do you believe they were born again?
Oh yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I think both of them. Like, I don't even know in those families if you're born again or you're just born, right? It's just like, you know, they became
faithful
Christians.
Though. They're Christians, and they're influencing you. It sounds like you, the Catholic PJ. They're kind of influencing you along those lines.
Yeah, more so my mother-in-law.
Mm.
Because at that time,
What was it that influenced you? What was she did that influenced you?
Pat, and she's still alive, by the way. Pat
Mhm.
has a way of very spiritual, but she's almost like a Mother Teresa, like almost kind of timid, not fire and brimstone, not
Not
yelling.
overt, not overt with her face. No,
No, overt, but not beating you over the head with it, right?
got it,
Like
got it.
she's not going to be sitting on the street corner yelling, but if she's on a one-on-one with you, it'll certainly come up. But
Right.
very you'd have to meet her. Like Pat's just really sweet. So
Mhm.
the way she would come across, and again, she wouldn't throw anything at us. Um, and I think she knew that me and Emily at the time, because we still weren't going to church yet when we first were married.
Mhm.
Um, I think she knew we were probably away from faith, but she would talk about her life, like how God, like she would actually even say when she would pray, she would picture herself literally crawling up in God's arms and then holding her like a baby when she would pray. And I never heard anybody say anything like that before in my life.
Right, right,
I was
right.
there going, well, that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? But the way she described it, she obviously had great peace and calmness and, a feeling of being loved and
Mhm.
enveloped, when she would talk about it, even though I couldn't relate to it at the time. So the way
Right.
she spoke of it was very calming. I remember when talking to her, like I would just feel very peaceful. Again, not making a decision anywhere that, one way or the other, but just kind of like thinking, oh, that's interesting. Like her perspective is interesting, right?
No,
As
like
opposed to somebody
she's a good witness
beating
to
you over the
you.
head with the Bible,
Right.
right? Brian, you need to do this. God,
Uh,
lousy, whatever, you know what I mean? Which
right.
that too, and that's no way to love somebody to Christ, right? That'll make you turn the other direction, right?
Yeah,
For sure,
you can't argue people into faith, right?
right?
So she's giving you this pretty good witness. It sounds like this good role model, this good example of what a real Christian is. You see on the media and everything, really kind of caricatures of what a Christian is. But it sounds like what you had is a gift from your wife's family is this example. So you're interacting with your in-laws, and it sounds like it's having some kind of influence on you. So what exactly is going on with you in your home life? I mean, you have kids going on taking place. You're working a lot. What does that look like for you?
Well, the first, typical, right? You and Lisa did the same thing. We're married probably, so we got married not, we met in 95, moved to Chicago in late 95, early 96, bought a house, had a
So
nice house, a nice.
you were older when you got married. You weren't like in your early 20s.
No, I was so we moved in 95, beginning of 96. So I was like 33 going on
Mm.
34. And
Right, right.
we're 5 years apart. So she was 28 going on 29.
Okay.
Got married in September of 96. So I was just a couple months shy of my 34th birthday. She
Mm.
was just shy of her 29th birthday.
Right.
Um, so 95, 96, got married in 96. And then Jordan was born in April of 99. So we were that typical married about, 2.5 years, right? And then here comes, baby one in 99. And then I became a Christian in February of 2000. And then Bailey was born in October of 2000. So,
Okay. So what caused you to A, because it sounds like you started going back to church, and B, become a Christian in that time frame? Was it anything that rocked your world that caused you to take that leap of faith and give a profession of faith, as opposed to being a kind of wishy-washy kind of a Christian or whatever?
oh, yeah, I can tell you exactly what. So, we'd moved, like I said, we moved to Chicago, and then I had some things happen with jobs there. So all of a sudden, my successful career, I kept on seeming like I was bouncing from job to job to job. So one job, then we moved to Virginia Beach. That's where we found out Emily was pregnant. We were living in an apartment. Then we built a house in Suffolk, Virginia. A couple months before we uh, we build that house. That's stressful, right? We're building the house, and I'll never forget. I can't remember exactly the time frame. So Jordan was born April of 99. So I'm going to say like maybe February of 99.
Mhm.
We had our sales kickoff for GE. I worked for General Electric at the time, GE Medical Systems. And it was like a 4 or 5 day meeting. I'm out there, good meeting. I just kind of started with the company. And literally, Brian, I swear to God, as I tell you, like 10 minutes before they dismiss the meeting and everybody goes out on their, goes home on their planes. I think we were in San Francisco, and they roll out our comp plan, right? Our new comp plan, which they rolled it out was our commissions were basically going down 50%.
No, so your income is basically going down 50%.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Oh,
here's this thing. So I have a new baby coming,
right.
build a new house, right? Thinking I'm going to be earning at this level, right? And I'll never forget, you know me, you always call it, it's my superpower. I can sleep anywhere at any time.
Mm.
So I'm on this plane. It was a red eye going back from San Francisco all the way back to Norfolk, Virginia. It's a long flight, like a 5-6 hour flight.
Mm.
And I didn't sleep a wink.
Oh, wow.
So the whole time here,
what's going on in the back of your mind? Because you weren't fired. You didn't lose your job.
No, I still have my job.
So what's going through your mind that causes PJ, the superpower, can sleep on broken glass, to not be able to sleep?
I was just, my heart was literally beating. I could feel it beating inside my chest, super high, super rapid, super fast. And I didn't sleep. I was just worrying about, like we all do, right? It's like, so I got a new house, new wife, new kid coming, right? In 2 months, right? How am I going to do this, right?
Did you already have a child?
No, this was February before.
So this is your first. So you've got a house with, I would assume, a big mortgage because it's a big house, right? You've got a slashed commission schedule. You've got a new baby. Was your wife working at the time?
Yeah, but not, part-time kind of do it.
So you have a part-time wife. So you were basically the breadwinner in the family.
Right.
That's a lot. So how did this play into your faith journey?
Well, so that's February. So all during that time, and then right after Jordan was born, and I had this anxiety, hence the, going back to the Bible verse, right? Really high anxiety. Like from when I got home from that sales meeting, for like the next month, Brian, I swear to God, I would get maybe 1 hour of sleep a night.
Oh my goodness.
Wide awake, working, hard. I just couldn't sleep at night. I was like almost getting to the point where I was almost. And
what were you afraid of, PJ? What were you afraid of?
Not being able to provide.
Okay.
Not being able to,
because you'd never been a dad before. You never were responsible for. I mean, you are kind of responsible for your wife, but your wife's an adult, right? Your children are not. They can't provide for themselves.
Right.
And because your wife's a part-time employee, you've got to make sure you provide for this young baby that's coming. So that could be a bit stressful. And I got to believe we have a lot of listeners, young men out there that have the same concerns.
Yeah, I would imagine. So I literally went, I don't know if I would have a diagnosed nervous breakdown. I went to see, psychologist. I was on like antidepressants, which to me, that even made me feel worse. I felt more anxious, not less anxious.
Really?
Then I had my dad come down. I remember calling my dad and said, I think you need to come down. Like we just moved into the house and I need help like moving furniture because my wife's, 8 months pregnant now. She can't lift furniture up 2 flights of steps or whatever.
Right.
All that. So my dad came down and spent time with us, which was really good. And that calmed me down a little bit. And I think, believe it or not, my dad at that time, he would wake up this morning, have his coffee, and he'd read his Bible, and he'd read the Daily Bread, the little booklets that you and I like.
Right, the Daily Bread.
I think I was introduced to that. I think he left it behind. So my dad spent about a week with us, helped me get some stuff done.
Yeah.
Helped me smooth down, but it was funny. So all during after that, and then in the early years of Jordan, we started looking for churches, and it was funny, Brian. I had a lot of anxiety, didn't sleep much, but every time we would go to check out a church, because then we started looking for churches, like here comes the baby. Okay, now we'll go back to church, right? Because that's
so hold it now. So you think because you guys weren't going to church at the time.
Correct.
So what I'm hearing is having a baby was a impetus to finding a church. Why would that be? What would having a child be important for you to have a church?
I guess because of her background and my background, I guess we figured, okay, well, if we're ever going to go to church, now's the time, right?
Okay.
Before the child's born. And it was funny, Brian. It took us a while. We went to about 4 or 5 different churches, and I would be super anxious. But when I would get into church, whatever church it was, I would feel very relaxed and calm.
Really?
Almost to the point that I wouldn't fall asleep at church, but I feel like I could have.
Well, you're having 1 hour of sleep a night. So
yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm surprised you stayed awake for anything.
Dude, I was like, I went through, So we did that for a couple of months. And then I think my dad came to see us in March of 99. Maybe it was February, because in March, he came to see us in March. And unbeknownst to us, and my dad, like at that time, my dad was so I was 30, I was in 99. So my dad was born in 34. So he'd have been, he was like 64, I think, getting closer to his 65th birthday.
Right.
Unbeknownst to us, my dad had a huge mass in his colon that he didn't know about, because that was March. April, like mid-April of 99, he goes to the ER. He's not feeling well, a little uncomfortable, whatever. And he went a couple times. He thought he was, like, they didn't know if he was having a heart problem. If they put an EKG on his heart, was fine. Actually, my dad, when he came down to see us in Virginia, he played tennis like 2 days he was down there, because my dad was a big tennis player, real good shape and all that.
He was he was in great shape and didn't know he had this mass.
Nope. So he goes to the doctors. Mid-April, they find out he's got a big mass in his colon, which they immediately, when they found out he was actually in the ER, he lied to him. He just knew something was the matter, but he told him he was having a heart attack. So they're like, "Oh, go to the ER, we'll pay for it." You know what I mean? Right. So he goes in, they hook him up to the EKGs and all that, and the ER doc's looking at him like, "Dude, you're as healthy as an ox. Like, your heart's like perfect for, like, you have the heart of like a 40-year-old, not a 65-year-old." So he's like, "What's going on again?" He's like, "Well, when I breathe, like, it's just uncomfortable." And he goes, "Hold on a second." So the guy goes to get the ER doc, gets an ultrasound, puts it up to my dad's abdomen, and he sees this big mass, and he's like, "Call your wife. You're going upstairs for surgery, like, right now."
Wow.
So he calls his wife. They go up. They take it. There's like a softball size. Take out the
goodness.
Resected his colon.
Yep.
And all that. But I think they gave him a CT scan before they went to surgery. So they saw the mass. He had a little spot or two on his lung, but the thing that really killed him was it had spread to his liver, and his liver was more than 50% affected, and you can't take out more than 50% of your liver.
So how long did he last after the surgery?
He found out he had the cancer April 13th. He died May 23rd.
Oh my goodness. He not even a little over a month.
5 weeks.
Right.
And in between there, Jordan was born April 25th. And he died May. She wasn't even a month old. Jordan's like the youngest traveler ever. Jordan drove from Virginia Beach to Philly and back, and then flew up to Philly and back before she was a month old. Because we for the funeral, like, we went up to visit him, and then when we were driving home, he actually died when we were coming home the one weekend, and then we flew back up a couple days later. I remember my wife breastfeeding Jordan on the plane. Sitting on the plane breastfeeding her, because she was only like 3.5 weweeks old,
Hey, PJ, I have to ask if you could hang on for one more episode.
Yeah,
we're at the time, and if you can, we're gonna go with one more. But I want to tell our viewers that you can get this podcast and all of our other podcasts. You just go to Google Play or iTunes, and you can download the Queen City Leaders app that has all of these videos plus more, plus everything you want to know about the Christian Businessmen's Connection here in Charlotte. You can also go to the CBMC Charlotte YouTube channel that has all of these videos as well as more, where you can find more information, get more stories like PJ's. And finally, go to the CBMC website. It's charlottecbmc.com. charlotte.cbmc.com, where you have not only these episodes, but you have programs like Operation Timothy, which I have gone through and brought people through, that can help you in your walk with the Lord. So, well, Charlotte CBMCers, that's all for this episode. Again, I'm your host, Brian Brady. You've been listening to the Charlotte Christian Businessmen's Connection podcast. Until next time, God bless and Godspeed.
We hope you are blessed and encouraged by this episode. The Charlotte CBMC podcast is also available on the Queen City Leaders app. Now you can easily listen or watch and share these inspirational podcasts with others. Download the app at the Apple App Store or Google Play. For more information about Charlotte CBMC, simply type in the browser address line charlotte.cbmc.com. That's charlotte.cbmc.com. There you'll discover free resources to deepen your faith. Connect to one of the area's C3 groups that meet each week. For business owners, discover the Trusted Advisors Forum, where you can meet with other business owners and discuss how to grow your business spiritually. Finally, you'll learn about Charlotte CBMC sponsored events, like the Queen City Leaders Summit Series. Please subscribe to this podcast so you'll know when new episodes are available. Like and share this podcast with other men and help us spread the good news of Jesus Christ throughout the Queen City. Join us again next time for a new episode of the Charlotte CBMC podcast. May you have a blessed and productive day working for the Lord. Thank you.